Hello and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Richey of the MHRT Network. Over to my right is Alex Gibbons of Arrowhead Addict. You can catch his content, primarily written, actually exclusively written if I'm not mistaken, over at Arrowhead Addict. He has some great stuff. Like I said, great content. Some of the best stuff on that network and on that page. Directly below me here is Captain Jack of the Captain Jack Rackham YouTube channel, amongst other things. You can find him everywhere, including pretty much live on every Raiders broadcast, because it would not be complete without a pan in on the captain. So literally, I don't think you miss a broadcast. It's crazy. But you can go ahead and catch his shows. He's got a bunch of them up there.
Sick hat.
We have come to a consensus of all.
That hat's sick. There you
go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we are fans, despite the fact that it is of the wrong team. The other three hosts are actually a fan of Captain's Hat. It's a solid one. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. So.
Yep, drink it in.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And then directly down below here, diagonally from me, is Coach Defense of the Lockdown Defense channel there on YouTube. Guys, we need to start getting Coach some more subs. We want him to get a tremendous amount of traffic through to his channel. We want more and more Chargers fans to go ahead and join Coach, so they also join us live as well. It would be fantastic.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Cap,
I don't know
Cap
if you heard.
Came through last night, y'all. Y'all believe that? Jack was in the building. Avatar is in the building, and Captain Jack rolled through. So yeah, we had a good time last night.
Yeah, and like I said, it's only because I forget that you're on, and I apologize. But I was on my computer doing something, and I saw you.
Yeah.
Coach,
jump right in.
Coach is on. I said I gotta go over and say hi.
That's it. Appreciate the support as always, man. You know, every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. on my channel, we do it live and direct. Sports Talk with Coach and Kurt coming through. It's a good show. We had a good show last night, so check that out. Replay out if you haven't.
Yeah, in fact, well, I'm sorry, but my phone is ringing. That's one of the bad things about doing the studio where your phone is hooked up to the modem. So apologies there. I will say that I came in, and I'm not going to take your thunder. But you and your co-host, Kurt was his name, correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. It says that you were talking about the situation in New York with Aaron Rodgers, and I said, I said, save some of your bile for tomorrow night, which is tonight. So I'm glad that you at least saving some of that bile. So that's good.
I got you covered. As Clubber Lang said in Rocky 3, I got a lot of mo.
So Bronco VA, I feel about this strongly about Patrick that I went ahead and pulled
memorialized
the
him.
Closet.
That right there is a Lockdown Defense podcast special right there.
Yeah. So I even tweeted that out, and Tim Patrick actually
he did.
He
liked it.
He did.
Yeah,
he did like it. Yep.
Awesome. No, he responded too.
He liked it and responded. Yeah, he sure did.
Yeah, that was amazing. He's literally one of my favorite Broncos. I just actually put that out there for those who follow me on Twitter. He is just the type of player you want on your team. There's nothing else you can really say. Like he's the guy you want on your team. Obviously, I am rooting for him. Really want to see him bounce back. Really want to see him return to form. The team will not be the same without him.
Week two, or later. Okay, so at least we can skip one game with him. Okay, I don't know the severity of the injury.
Oh no,
I don't know the severity.
He's out for the season.
Achilles.
No, okay. Then again, my best to him personally, because again, Tim Patrick is
year.
Okay, well, whenever we play you next year, the week after that, so we don't have to see him, but maybe once. Okay, but goodness for his health, because like I said, love the receiver, fantastic receiver that he is, catches everything in sight, and your girlfriend too.
Wow. Nice. And to piggyback on Richie, guys like Tim Patrick really make it tougher for you to deal with and digest because he's a good guy. Like, he's a really good player, he's a really good guy, really good stand-up dude, and it really sucks to see people like him get hurt. Like, if you're an a-hole and you get hurt, I mean, who cares? You're not going to share the tear for those. But guys like Patrick, man, it's really tough to see him go down with 2 consecutive years of injuries. And, again, I would much rather have him play against the Chargers and be hurt, in my opinion. So, I mean, hope he can definitely get back at some point and play good ball, man. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's exactly. He's not only a good guy, but he's also a tremendous football player, and you hate to see something like that happen to people exactly like that. But we want to kick off the show with a bit of a continuation because, man, the news was fast and furious this past week.
Yeah,
when we were out there. Like, it was just bam, bam, bam.
It was all in Denver.
And it was all Denver too. So hi. Ed, I see your comment there. I'm going to table it until we're done this little bit of a roundtable discussion, and I promise you we will get to that because, man, there's just so much stuff to cover tonight. But for those of you who didn't see, I would welcome a follow on Twitter, and you'll get as much Bronco news, both the Wild Wild West podcast account as well as my own. All of the other co-hosts here have their own Twitter accounts or X accounts, whatever you're supposed to call them now, as well.
Online.
I tweeted out.
Throwing up the X.
Yeah, I tweeted out an article that went into some pretty heavy detail about the Wazirike betting thing, I guess is a good way to describe it. And let's just say it's not looking good given the current information.
No, it is not.
No.
Yeah.
So right now on the table
is prison time, man. He's gonna be in the slammer like MC Hammer.
That was funny. It's not funny to be good, but that's funny analogy. I wasn't ready for that one.
You like that?
That was a good one.
Yeah.
I was just waiting to sprinkle it in.
Yeah.
There it
came
is.
early.
Yeah. Christmas came early.
Yeah. And so that was a really interesting one. And for those who don't know, there was a much broader case in which multiple players, including the the Iowa kicker, is it not?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who, I mean, if there ever was a case of why an integrity issue could arise from betting on your team and your sport, that Iowa kicker one pretty much is the poster child for it.
I think Wazirike bet on the same game just for Iowa State, though.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
There it is. We got Inception now, a little betting Inception.
Yeah. That's what it sounds like.
Within a bet.
So Wazirike's betting within the sport and league that he was playing in did date back to college for Wazirike, and that was part of the reason why he was also wrapped up as part of this particular investigation. And then because it started going deeper, they started pulling back the curtain and found that he was also betting on the NFL. A combination of, I think, players and the investigators let the league know. And, I mean, he bet, wait for it, 32 times. 32 bets were placed on NFL games. 32. Not one. It's not like, I made him. Yeah.
One for each team.
I saw something that said he had 801 mobile bets on FanDuel.
That's a problem.
For over $22,000.
That's a problem, buddy. You got to pick up another habit. Like that's pretty damn bad. That's pretty damb bad. And then
FanDuel all day, like give me that.
Right. Yeah. He's scratching like Pookie from New Jack City.
He was probably betting on like how long it would take for him to blow wad on the hooker in Vegas, that was doing him, the over-under, right? The over-under was like 10 seconds, and he's like, I got that beat, baby. I'll bet the under. Because She ain't never had no Wazarike, baby. That's it.
Oh, that is funny. That is funny. They bet the over under. Over under 5 minutes. What you got, baby?
No, 5 minutes, 5 seconds, baby.
Oh, damn, 5 seconds?
Yeah, she might not have ever had the Wazarike, but she was good.
That's that rapid fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Say no, baby. Give me about 15 minutes. I'll just 15 minutes. I'll be back.
As my
Give
guy
me a
Coach
cigarette
Kurt
and a
says,
Red Bull.
as my guy Coach Kurt says, 3 pumps and it counts. 3 pumps and it counts. I'm just saying.
So,
oh man, that's too funny.
Yeah, I said that in the Kringleberry.
The Hickory Kringleberry, that's what it's called. The Hickory Kringleberry, that's exactly what it's called. 3 pumps, it counts. It counts.
Yeah. So, I mean, needless to say, what we're talking about here is big time.
I don't know what the fuck we're talking about. I'm sorry. That's
you're talking about pumping bets on hookers.
Talking about pump.
We're here for football,
pumping, right?
So, but
it's a fun show.
But family ratings removed from this one for sure.
Oh yeah, the gloves off, baby.
Yeah.
Literally.
Oh man.
Wazarike is facing legit chances of jail time here. Like there is.
Wow.
I mean, he hid his identity. He bet on NFL games when he wasn't allowed or wasn't supposed to based on the league rules. He also did the same thing when he was in college as well. Just bang, bang, bang.
You got a problem, dude.
Yeah.
That 800 number they give you in those betting commercials.
Yeah.
You need to call all of those.
That. He needed that on speed dial.
You really did.
He's not even
thinking good. He walked in with a fake mustache and thought he was going to be conspicuous. It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Baby, who you gonna believe? Me and your lying eyes. There you go.
Right.
So, I mean, I really think that this is one of those cases where, as a young rookie come into the league, you really should look to this and just, this is really that poster example of what not to do. And you hate to have that guy on your team. I'm also really, really interested to see what the Broncos intend to do. In other news, obviously we had some transactions that occurred that we'll discuss later on after this, but, we made some very hasty decisions when it came to other things this week, but, we still technically have the rights to Wazarike, and that is an interesting
coming back.
But that I found interesting, right? Is just, they made such quick decisions on other players, but they were not quick to make decisions on that, at least in the same way. So I was quite interested to see, how they differed on one player versus the other. You hate to see young guys make mistakes, but at the same time, this is actually more than a mistake. This was malicious intent, and not necessarily malicious in the sense that it's hurting anybody other than himself, but this was done with purpose. He intentionally tried to hide.
Yeah. He consciously disregarded it. He knew it was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. He intentionally tried to hide his identity and said, rules don't apply. And that's a problem.
It's weird. It's like anything with I guess you can say, overbearing addiction, right? We're talking any vice that you have. Like at some point when you get so deep into your addiction, you just get comfortable. You said it stems back to college, and the number of bets he made, according to what Alex's numbers that he just gave, that's a problem. That's a serious, full-on addiction, and like he is to the point where he got caught because he got comfortable. That's really what it is. Like I'm just so into it that I'm not even thinking rationally about how it can affect me outside of this. Like I'm just got to be in the moment. I got to bet this and bet that. And I got to get back because it's the gambling fever. And they what they call it, gambling fever. That type of thing.
Gamblers, whatever,
whatever they call it. Like he literally has it, and he is not. He's off the rail. He's completely off the wagon. The wagon fell over. He rolled down the hill, and he just kept rolling. It's just bad.
Well, and
It's
that's
just
what
bad.
I say. Like this, it all happened after Calvin Ridley too, so they were cracking down on it.
Exactly. So that tells you even more so that I just can't put the bottle down, can't put the pipe down, can't put the blunt down, can't put the phone down, can't whatever your vice is.
Because I think the other guys, I think for the most part, like the other players that have been suspended for betting, I think was more of like nuance of not knowing they can't bet on something on the team playing or something like that versus openly betting on NFL games, So I think that's why those ones were a little more investigated into, it seemed like, because those ones kind of just came out of nowhere, and it was like kind of discussing what to do with those players. But this one was, pretty swift.
Yeah, and it gets worse.
It was swift, and there's clearly no. Like, at first, I was wondering if he was going to try to dispute it.
Oh no! Listen, we got electronic paper trail. There's no disputing that. Like this.
The sad thing is, though, he probably just went to a casino or something and started. But it's like he can't even do that anymore. So he's gonna keep trying to, because it is an addiction, like Coach said. Very clearly with that amount of betting.
Yeah.
So it's only going to go further downhill.
That's an egregious amount. That dude got a problem. Seriously. He needs rehab.
801 on FanDuel. That's wild.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He needs rehab. Like, he got a serious problem.
He put approximately 32 bets on Broncos games.
Yes.
Wow. Individual game props.
Just on Broncos games. Out of 800. Wow.
And then 800 was just,
Yeah, you got a serious problem.
That dude. Tells me he tried for a while to stay separate from his team, and then was just kept seeing it.
I can't. It bled over.
I know Jerry's going to get 5 catches because it's in the game plan.
Yeah. And that's what gets murky.
And
that's what gets murky because you're inside.
That's why it's an all or nothing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Coach, that's exactly what you just said. When you have that addiction, when you have that thing. There is no, I'll stop there.
Nope.
You can't do it. It's just that is the problem. Like that is when you have crossed the threshold and you need help now and fast.
Agreed.
Agreed. 100%, right? So anyways, guys, I don't want to spend a tremendous amount of time on the Wazirike thing, but
Too late.
No, it's not that one. But
you got a timer. 20 minutes.
Think that's something that really needs to be discussed, and I think that far too many people just kind of skip past it and ignore that sort of thing. It comes down to the integrity of the league, and it comes down to the integrity of the players. As an example, as a player, you could bet on yourself to miss something like that Iowa kicker did, and he missed something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how much.
I was just reading that one. It said he had over 100 FanDuel bets.
Yeah.
He's a second string kicker too. So it's he got in for that game and bet that and missed it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So again, that's where all of this really starts getting murky and can really start impacting fans' ability to trust the product on the field, fans' ability to want to continue to be fans of the league. And that's why college adopted the same rules and the NFL adopted those same rules. And I think it's the right move. And frankly, in my opinion, I think the penalties should be harsher. I think just like cheating in the deflating footballs, for example, I think all that should be treated, or taping opposing football teams. I think I think that should apply to coaches, to owners. I don't care who you are in the league. It just has such a detrimental impact that I have no problem with really, really harsh penalties when it comes to that kind of stuff, because you just can't do it.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, on to news around the AFC West before we get into training camp and the kind of the ins and outs that we've all heard from our various teams. I'm going to throw over to you, Alex, to talk about injury updates and whatnot for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, really, not too much has happened for as much as gone on in Denver. he's been pretty tame in KC, I'd say. Kind of biggest news last week was Tony going down. I think and then obviously Chris Jones still not showing up to camp, hoping to get an extension, which seems to be pointing more towards the positive side of that will occur, but who knows? I like I said last week, I think that should be priority one, because that's a totally different situation than moving on from Tyreek and making things work. So continuing to monitor that, but outside of that, not too many serious injuries. I'm trying to think. Like Jody Fortson, I think, was the biggest name to kind of get. He had a shoulder injury. I don't think there's much further info on that. But outside of that, biggest news kind of been
mild face bruising.
The what?
The mild face bruising.
Yeah, well, that's with helmets on, man. There ain't no face bruising.
Well, Kelsey did punch one of his teammates.
Yeah. Well, dude, that's camp. It happens. It really does, though. That's it
happens more than you people realize.
Because you're out in the heat, you're sweating, you're dying, dudes are screaming at you. Some emotions are gonna fly, especially if some guys just chirping. So and I think he's come out and acknowledged that you can't really. That's not what they need to do, and he said all the right things after the fact. But that's just a little camp skirmish that happens,
Yeah.
So it's kind of just let it go for a second, don't let it get out of hand, move on.
And we'll call it a slight tussle in football. This is a slight tussle.
Yeah.
But
just merely a flesh wound. Just merely a flesh wound.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
What is correct?
But biggest news is the Justin Ross hype train is just continuing to build, and I think that's kind of a glass half full positive of Tony getting hurt, is that players like him, are kind of, he's in a red shirt year he didn't do anything last year due to injury. You see him getting more integrated into the first team offense and making, everyone makes highlight reel catches this time of year, but making good plays and seems to be building more of a rapport with Mahomes. Mahomes, I think, goes out every interview on his practice days and makes it a point to talk about Justin Ross. So, that's an exciting thing to keep watching, and just see if he kind of works into the fold with the Tony injury, as well as Rashid Rice, the guy they drafted in the second round this year. That was Mahomes' guy. He's been integrating himself more in there too. So kind of at least exciting times on that end of the ball. But still trying to see, kind of watching this Chris Jones saga and hope that comes to an end here soon. But outside of that, there's not too much. No one's calling anyone out or anything like that in KC right now. So things are quiet on that front.
Interesting. Yeah, I've heard some similar things, kind of, more of the same, just in terms of it's more positive coming out of KC in terms of negative when it comes to injuries or any of that kind of stuff. So,
although I should bring Ed's comment back to light, but and that's why I mentioned maybe talking about the running back market, because ever since this whole Jonathan Taylor requesting a trade thing, it's everyone's saying the Chiefs are the suitor, are in on that, monitoring the situation. But I don't think they need Jonathan Taylor. That's not really Andy Reid's bag. It'd be cool if that happened, but I think from a fantasy perspective, he would just plummet in terms of his production. And
he's a good dual threat back. He could pick up a lot of receiving touchdowns in that regard. So I wouldn't rule it out. And it really moves the needle.
That is true. But again, every big time player that it's how, I guess, kind of more when I was growing up, it was every big time player that was moving on from a team was linked to the Patriots. That's where everyone. So it's now it's at least the Mahomes era here. It seems like every time someone's cut are let go
Unhappy.
or anything. It's like, oh yeah, hey, they're gonna go to KC, and I was like,
right. Whoever's winning at the time, everybody's linked to that team.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of why I just take it with a grain of salt, but it leaves at least exciting. Being a KC fan, that's brings it to the franchise gets put into that stuff, and may be true, it may not be true, but obviously something else to monitor to see if that kind of picks up steam. So
I'm gonna just pull up this question, this kind of comment. I mean, Pacheco is still go.
I mean, I would say, but that's also from the perspective of looking at a Super Bowl roster and saying, "Where's the hole?" But I mean, they won with a 7th round running back who's, not bad. I will say Pacheco is not Jonathan Taylor. Like Pacheco is not going to be able to. I don't think to get 300 carries and turn it into 2,000 yards. I definitely think Jonathan Taylor could do that. But
easy.
But I think just in today's league in general, and I think that this current running back situation is somewhat indicative of that. Is just that the running back position and how teams traditionally, like old Steelers football was just run the ball, like power eye. It's just like no one's doing that stuff anymore. And everyone's all about these running back by committees. And like, no one needs a true bell cow running back. I mean, there's 2 teams that really kind of have that right now.
Yeah.
And everyone else is just kind of signing, 2-3 guys and just riding the hot hand. So it's just like, I don't think any team necessarily needs a running back anymore. Needs a Derrick Henry or whatever to be successful.
Yeah.
Coming up.
I actually think that Reed, if he was looking for any type of running back, would be looking for.
I think it would be a Jonathan Taylor-esque.
Well, I was thinking it'd be more of a guy who is a weaker run blocker or like pass pro guy, but someone who is like a faster, shifty guy like an Eckler. Like an Eckler type.
Well, think about like Brian Westbrook, right? In Philly was probably the most successful. Or I guess McCoy.
Yeah.
But I mean, those 2 guys are the 2 most successful running backs he's ever had. But Westbrook was definitely your gadget. He wasn't like a running back.
No.
He wasn't Jerome Bettis or something. But
no.
That's just always kind of been the back. Yeah, I mean that'd be the other thing is though they got 4 running backs right now, and so it's like they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire still there. They haven't done anything with him. I kind of think they're waiting for a team to have like an injury or something. Yeah, I mean that's probably the best time to do it because I don't think is there a deadline on like when to do their option.
Oh, they would have already passed.
Oh yeah, they did.
That was in May.
That
was in May.
So, but that's probably what they're waiting for at this point. They brought McKinnon back. They got that rookie out of Tulsa, who, at least at this stage of training camp, is getting pretty hyped up. Got Pacheco, so it's like I feel like adding any to that, you gotta have some plans in place to get rid of some people without losing value on that too. Yeah. So I don't know. I do see them maybe adding to that, but obviously, point 1, Chris Jones, got to be back. Otherwise,
nothing else happens until that gets done.
You're gonna have a bad time.
We don't trade or pay Jonathan Taylor or anybody else until that gets done.
Until the Jones is back in the building, basically.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, Coach, over to you. Same kind of general comment. We'll cover camp as well, I guess, a little bit since Alex kind of jumped in a little bit on that front as well for the Chargers.
Well, thankfully, and I'm going to, prayerfully say that I hope this stays that way, that, it's been pretty quiet in Chargers camp from an injury perspective. Only person that's been conspicuously absent is Trey Pipkin. He has a minor leg injury, so they're holding him out as a precaution in drills and one-on-ones and things that could aggravate his injury. Wearing a leg sleeve, so he's walking, just that in pads at the moment. So, nothing really I guess you can say, too concerning in that front. But that's the only injury front news that we're looking at, thankfully, because we've had that long-standing history of it being a problem. So got a week and a half of camp, and we ain't had no major injuries. So I'm thankful for that. And hopefully this stays that way.
Knock on wood for you there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, me too. So, but yeah. So, regards to the camp itself, I mean, it's been definitely competitive. It's been a heavy hitting bout between Kellen Moore's offense and Brandon Staley's defense. It's been some wins and losses on both sides, depending on what day it is. But when it comes down to individual people who have air quotes shined in the moment, Quentin Johnston is checking all the boxes at the moment. He's making play after play, highlight after highlight, winning all his one-on-ones. He's looking really crisp in his route running, in and out of his breaks. His yards after catch.
And he ain't driving 120 to practice. So.
And there you go. Even if it is for his dog.
Yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly for the dog, right? So yeah, so he's checking all the boxes, I'm very thankful that this is turning out to be what they thought when they drafted him, because I'm just looking at on the outside, like I'm just looking at Jackson Smith and Jigba, who we just missed on, and look at Zay Flowers, who's been, from everybody's perspective, uncoverable in practice so far. So those were my preferences in the draft. So I'm hoping.
I swear though, sorry, but I swear there's I got this conspiracy that uncoverable headache language is just being copy and pasted once a week, and they're just mentioning some new rookie.
To a degree,
I swear, dude.
Some of it looks the same. The verbiage is right. You're right. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Is everyone uncoverable now?
Exactly. But I'm seeing video to back it up. In certain Twitter feeds, I'm seeing video to back up the statements. Yeah, so it's not just words.
Yeah,
it's not just words.
Where it gets hilarious is that when the team drafts a brand new cornerback, like a defensive back, and then they draft a wide receiver, and then they tout one week that the wide receiver was uncoverable, and then the next week they tweet that
the corner's a nightmare.
Back, was unstoppable, and
right. Which
what?
one is it?
Yeah.
Which one is it? Right.
Pick one.
Exactly. So you got the better me this week, and the next week I got the better you. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So but again, looking at it from one-on-ones in practice and 11-on-11 drills and things of that nature, he's looked apart like a first-round wide receiver so far. So pray for help, pray for his production, and pray that he is that dominant come the regular season. But what I also like in this particular facet is that Josh Palmer is also looking good. He's the former number 3 receiver. I call it former because again, he wasn't a first round pick, but he's applying a lot of pressure to Johnson, so he has to keep the production up, because Palmer is definitely taking an ascension level step when it comes down to his production in camp. So if that can translate to the field, that's a good problem to have.
Even ESPN was saying, because I saw the don't tell nobody, but I actually had ESPN on for a little bit today at work. Not that
you was on the ESPN,
but it was on the high side computer, so I'm just saying. Anyway, but ESPN had the catches that were made in camp, and they touted Palmer's catch, and they were saying and they went out and picked the receiver in round 1, and they got this guy, and he made a hand catch where it was one hand stick him.
Yep.
One hand stick him. And it's why the hell did they wait? Yeah, exactly. I know it's the glove, but still you got to at least snag it when it's there, though. I could wear one of those gloves, but I ain't gonna be doing that,
That's true.
No.
That's true. It's still
I can catch you with my belly. Put the glove on my belly, and I'll be catching it like that.
Right.
Get in my belly, that.
There you go. So yeah. So for them to be battling it out for
hopefully
time.
hopefully he doesn't do it against us.
Right, of course. There was but them two battling it out in camp and both of them looking polished early on is a good sign. And again, a good problem to have because you know what you have in your top two guys. Those two guys, going forward, them being productive in their roles and how Kellen Moore deploys them is going to be a very good sign to say that the offense is going to be very high powered in a sense when it comes down to the amount of weapons they will have. Vice last year, obviously. What they were dealing with. So if you go 3 to 4, 5 deep in your receiving room, and they all can play and all can be productive, then yeah, I'm ready to roll. Now on the defensive side of the ball, there's been some praises for Kenneth Murray, ironically. And I did mention this that I'm looking to see, because again, it's a contract year for him, and he's finally had a voice in the room that's a veteran voice that he can listen to and mentor with. So I think that Eric Kendrick is really rubbing off on him based upon what people have been saying and how he picks up things quicker, how he gets in and out of his reads, and he's more decisive and more confident in how he goes about his business. So that's a good problem to have. And on top of the fact that they drafted a linebacker in the third round, kind of motivates you a little bit too to get things together, right? Because it's put up or shut up. Because they brought a guy that could replace you in the building and who is very good as well. So him showing signs of good quality linebacking play is a good sign for our defense. That on top of the fact that Asante Samuels in the last 2 days have made it his personal business to basically disrupt every pass that he can. So that's another good sign for him to be productive in camp, given the backups and Justin Herbert fits, especially in the red zone. I think he knocked down 3 straight passes in a 2-minute drill that caused the defense to win that round. So yeah, looking for him to take another step in his progression as well has been for me the solid number 2 corner. It just depends on again what J.C. Jackson's health is come week 1. Again, I'm to the ilk of that one rushing back because of the level of talent that you have. Because again, Sante is a bona fide starter along with Mike Davis, and whenever JC is ready. But the rookies, or now I can't even call them rookies, they're second-year guys, sophomores. Jasir Taylor and Dean Leonard have been playing really well in camp as well. So again, I think you'll be fine with not having to force JC out there on week 1 if you didn't have to. So I think that with those guys, that we're looking at 4 to 5 solid guys they can cover in this defense. And again, if you deploy them right and utilize their talents in a proper manner, they can definitely show you that this can be a top 10 pass coverage defense on top of the edge rush that we already have. So I'm definitely hoping that this defense gets it right and gets it going come this regular season, because that's going to be the thing that's going to hold us back, in my opinion. I think the offense is going to be fine. I mean, if Justin Herbert can do what he does with the limited amount of protection and weapons he's had in the first 3 years, and you check all those boxes off, and you got a brand new offensive coordinator who seems to look the part, the defense has to get stops. If they get stops and we score points, that's wins all day and every day in everybody's book. So hopefully those things continue, no injuries, and we can improve ourselves defensively and stay healthy. I'm looking forward to the season, how we can be productive.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of pieces already in place, and I still maintain from our previous shows, for those who haven't seen them, I recommend going back and watching those ones. We kind of broke down offensive line kind of rankings within each of our divisions, and I still maintain that I still believe that the Chargers are among the top, if not the top, within the division when it comes to the offensive line, which will in turn likely help your run game, and more importantly help your newly minted quarterback with his Brinks truck and a half of a contract get the ball to the wide receivers. And as long as you guys can turn the page on your injuries, I really do think that you guys can be incredibly dangerous, not just in the division, but also in the AFC and perhaps even
Yeah, it gotta be, because the AFC is not a game. Like, if you had a choice between conferences, I would rather be in the AFC right now.
NFC, like
it's a gauntlet over here.
For sure.
It's a gauntlet.
Oh, and the Jets already won it, so.
Yeah. So they say.
Yeah.
I don't know why anyone else is trying.
Right.
On that note, I'm going to delve right into my Denver Broncos, who have seemingly insisted upon thrusting themselves into the news pretty much every day this past week. So that got interesting real quick. So I'm going to start off with the injuries. Obviously, we heard about Tim Patrick tearing his Achilles. That was a big one. I really had huge and high hopes for him this season, and I actually truly believe that he was probably going to shine on the field, perhaps even a little bit more than Cortland Sutton, in my honest opinion, because I think Patrick can do a little bit more. He has a little bit more versatility, a little bit more consistent, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought that was a huge hit, actually, to the Denver Broncos receiving corps. And just a few weeks ago, we were talking about how the wide receiver room for Denver is so deep. And then all of a sudden, KJ Hamler, now
done.
He got diagnosed with pericarditis. Now, what is super interesting about pericarditis is it is also a side effect of the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine. And in younger guys, in particular males, there is a higher susceptibility rate to getting that after the COVID-19 vaccine, which I thought was really interesting because he's a younger, healthy, generally healthy guy. And it typically does go away on its own with minimal, it's a time thing. It's not necessarily a treatment thing. It's a time thing. Now, you can also get it as a result of, just normally getting it. But it is certainly more rare and is typically not brought on through just like normal things, particularly not in an athlete who is well trained and stuff as him. And the Broncos chose to cut him as a result of that diagnosis. Now that was obviously, in my opinion, they were looking for a reason at that point. In my opinion, he had so many injuries up to that point. He had not had a tremendous amount of production, and I think they were just looking for a reason to cut him. And there is a potential that they may bring him back later if maybe there's another injury or whatever the case may be. So that's my general.
Actually, all the things that I saw was that.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry there, Rich. I said all the things that I saw was basically it was a roster move at the time since he wasn't going to be playing, that you waive him in order to bring them back later and then see what you got with the guys that you do have, because they know what they got in Hamler. And it's just a way of having another person on the roster to get some more looks at when you know what you got. And then you can have that affinity later on if you need him and he's available to get him. Also, when you talk about pericarditis, that's actually what happened with LeBron's son. And you were talking about, younger folks that are fit, that one of the side effects, and trust me, I am not going to make this into a trust me, I held back on a political inside comment before, and it was very, very, very political. So this is light in measure, but yeah, that is one of the side effects that has been brought about by the COVID vaccine, and it's for younger folks that are very healthy. Yeah, very healthy, and that's one of the things that happen.
Yeah. Myocarditis and pericarditis are two very common side effects, primarily in exceptionally healthy, athletic young men. It's the way that things landed for whatever reason as a result of the side effects. It is what it is. There's no sense in trying to hide from it. And I agree. I heard something very similar, Captain, where they're saying, "Hey, look, we have an embarrassment of riches in some regards at the wide receiver position." Now, what will be very interesting, and Ed, I agree that I don't think a bunch of other teams are going to see him as their savior. The one thing that will be incredibly interesting, though, and this is a calculated risk on behalf of the Broncos, in my opinion, which is if another team has an injury to one of their speed guys, or Alex, we were talking about earlier, about could the Chiefs want to make a roster move to make things interesting? Well, I could see Andy Reid looking at a speedy, crisp route runner in a KJ Hamler who's now available on the market and say, yeah,
I want that. Yeah, and then turns him into Tyreek.
Yeah, yes, please. Because no one is going to start saying, well, Reid, why would you make that decision? I mean, Andy Reid's going to be like, he's fast and he was available. Go away. And then people, okay, right? Like, no one's going to question that decision. No one, ever. And nor should they. So I could totally see like an Andy Reid maybe making a move, or I could see, obviously the Broncos potentially even bringing him back or whatever the case may be. I'd say that, someone like the Chargers could go after him as well, but KJ Hamler is not 6'2", and so therefore your GM is just a hard no. It's just the way he works.
Yeah, but he's fast though, so I imagine he's on pretty much every team's radar.
He gets hurt, which is true, but
speed pays. Look at John Ross.
Runner.
John Ross just retired from the Chiefs. I think maybe had 2 catches in his whole damn career. Was on like 8 teams, 4-2.
Yeah.
So
Hamler, I have to give him credit. When he was on the field, he looked like one of the best wide receivers on the Denver Broncos. His problem was he just got hurt and has been hurt. Now, so did a bunch of other players on the Broncos, and so you have to start wondering if another GM and another team is simply going to look at him and say, I believe our team and training staff can do better. And there's certainly large enough egos at the NFL level that at least 3 or 4 people will probably have that general view on the circumstance and situation. So anyways, that's my that's kind of the KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick scenario there as well. Delving in a little bit deeper into some of the other training camp stuff, Caden Stearns has been just the talk of the town in terms of his play on the defensive side of the ball. He is at the safety position. I've spoken about him before. In fact, he was my person to look out for on the Denver Broncos. Clearly, he is not disappointing and wanting to truly prove me right on that. So I appreciate it, Caden. Thank you. But he's really showing out to be the guy that I thought he could be this year based on all the reports that are coming out. I actually just had a volley back and forth with one of the Broncos media folks that was kind of confirming kind of what I had already heard, and he and I kind of volleyed back and forth on Twitter or X, whatever it is. And
Twitter X,
whatever, who cares?
Pythagoras.
Yeah. So that was an interesting one. There's also been conflicting reports, but generally speaking, it seems that the general consensus is that Russ has had tremendous ups and downs at camp, where he's had some days where he's just looked sharp and then other days where it's just not looked great. Peyton has come out and basically dismissed that as they are installing the entirety of their offense, and there is a bunch of plays that they have installed that they ran that they would never run against the Denver Broncos type defense. Part of that I agree with, and I can.
It also seems like over explanation.
Right, and that's kind of where I'm at with it as well. It's like, thou doth protest just a little too much.
Like if it was that, he would have.
I was just gonna do Shakespeare. I was just gonna do that, man. It's like
he's got his analyst
thinks he doth protest too much. That's right.
Exactly.
My cool reader analyst that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Sean Payton still got his analyst hat on. Just staring too much.
Yeah. We'll get into that one just a little bit later. But yes, I agree. And so that's an interesting one that came out of kind of the Broncos camp and some feedback and other things. On a positive note, though, Greg Dulcich has continued to wow at camp. Made quite a number of headlines, and a lot of people are saying that he's started to take some of those next steps that you would hope to have from a second-year tight end. For those of you who don't know, Dulcich was one of our higher draft picks last season. Came into the league a little bit hurt and really did come back and play quite well when he came in the latter part of the season and kind of looked the part, if you will, from that.
I almost kept him in the fantasy.
Yeah.
I almost did.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And I think this season will be kind of his year as long as he stays healthy and does well. He certainly looked like he has the potential to kind of play, we'll call it that role, like that guy on the team. Similar to the way you guys use Kelsey, I see Dulcich being used as that kind of a weapon.
Oh, yeah. Fantasy target right here. You heard it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm doing the dynasty draft right now.
And there's also been some really positive news. And again, we spoke about this just before the show. Williams, Javonte Williams. Are the Broncos rushing him back too much? For the record, I think that you could potentially get lucky with him where he may be durable enough to kind of then make it through the season and be okay. But in my opinion, I think the Broncos are best to ease him back in, but not force him to sit. I believe that as a football player in any contact sport, I don't care what sport you're playing, you need to be continuously pushed because your body needs to adapt to the abuse, if you will, of the sport. And the moment you leave the sport or don't push yourself within that sport, I believe your body suffers as a result, and you end up getting hurt because then you try to compensate as you're playing, and I think it just never ends well. You see it with all these players who take a year off, like Le'Veon Bell, or other players who kind of take it easy or try to leave and come back. They never look the same. They lose the fast twitch, they lose the strength, they lose the durability. Not one of them that can I remember at all, off the top of my head, who has left and come back and looked the same. Even Gronk, when he came back after being gone for that small stint there, was never really the same as he once was. He was kind of, he was just so gifted that he always looked halfway decent, but he still didn't have the same kind of look and feel that he did when he was playing in New England. He just didn't. So
he wasn't Gronk.
No, he wasn't the same
dominant. He was Gronk, but not Gronk.
Yeah, he wasn't the guy. Right? He was a guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't the guy. And that was I think a big differentiating point between kind of where he was and where he used to be and where he was now when he came back. So I think overall I'm genuinely concerned. I think that the Broncos offense is not going to be great. So there's a comment earlier here in the chat, which is, how many points do I think the Raiders are going to beat the Broncos by? I think more than I would like is the answer.
All you need is one. You need is 1 point. All you need is 1 point.
And I'm going to say 40, 50.
Jesus.
Yeah. Well, for as bad as their offense may be, Denver does have a good defense.
We do, but the thing that I have
that's it. Yeah.
But the problem is if your offense, as in the Broncos offense, also turns into the Raiders defense because they're playing so poorly, it really does make that game a long one to watch. And that's where I'm genuinely concerned is what we saw in the early stages of last year with Russ was a lot of picks and a lot of just not looking great. And
he's being danger witch.
Yeah, eating 5 too many danger witches. Now, Russ is now, gone on Weight Watchers, followed Jared on the Subway diet and lost.
Well, as long as he doesn't follow Jared and other things, he's good to go.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't follow the rest of his practices.
I agree. But I think that the real issue with Russ is that he has to prove to me at this point that he still has what he had even in a little bit when he was in Seattle, because I haven't seen any of it really in Denver to speak of. He had 2 games at the back end of last season, but when things actually mattered, he did not step up. So he's got to prove to me that he still has it. He's got to do something when the bullets are live. He's got to do something to show that he can pull a Neo from the Matrix and dodge those puppies and stop them dead.
I mean, just from a football perspective, I think that Sean Payton is going to do his best, and I think that he's in pretty good hands in this regard, is that he's going to maximize what Russ does well. I think he's going to really hone in and focus on that particular aspect of it. He's not going to try to do anything Hack could do and turn him to a different quarterback than who he really is and who he was in Seattle, which was, again, when he was in Seattle, he was on a Hall of Fame mark. So I think that if he does get back to those principles, and I think that what I like about Sean and what separates good coaches from great coaches is the fact that coaches like him will pivot based upon his talent and his personnel. And he can pivot and he will, customize his offense and things of that nature to allow for Russ to be successful. So I don't think, honestly and truly, I wouldn't hedge my bet on their offense being really ridiculously bad. I really think it might be formidable if you sleep on their offense thinking it's not going to be great, or they're going to do one thing and they're going to give you another, then they're going to catch you off guard and they're going to put up points on you. And again, you still have, outside of losing Patrick and Hamler, you still have a solid receiving core. You see clearly Doges is shining. If Javonte comes back, to the point where he is even 75% of what he was before the injury, early on in the season, you're off and rolling, in my opinion. And what you need, and what I think Sean Payton understands, even if you do have a good defense, and this is purely from my coaching perspective, no matter how good your defense is, as if you on the field in an elongated period of time, they're going to wear down and they're going to give up points. Yep. You have to be balanced in a certain regard. You have to take the time of possession down. If it's completely utterly 70-30 in time of possession in favor of the other team, your defense is going to get hurt, injured, and they're going to ultimately not be as good as they were on paper when they came into the game.
Yep, I agree. The issue that we saw last year was Russ missing what I would refer to as football basics. So, a standard crossing route midfield, he would either underthrow or overthrow a receiver. You would see him kind of just miss the standard stuff, like a deep pass that he used to nail 9 times out of 10 when he was in Seattle. Even some of them being the same routes that he was running when he was in Seattle were overthrown or underthrown or so misthrown that you wonder if he even knew what game he was playing. Right? Like, it was that bad. Like, it was that bad. It just was. I'm sorry. And so the ultimate kicker there is some of those things I can absolutely appreciate and understand could be on coaching, not being on the same page with the play calling, some stuff.
That leads into what Sean Payton was ranting about, how they were so bad in pre-snap penalties and adjustments and things of that nature all throughout the season. So, again, you got to clean all that up, because that you don't want to be behind the chains at any point in given time we run a successful offense. So,
the stadium was counting the play clock for him.
I know. I saw
at
that.
a professional event.
Yeah, I saw that.
Middle school games, man.
Yeah, it happened. It definitely happened.
But that's the thing, right? Which is a lot of that's on not only the center but also on the quarterback. And a guy that's 10 years in the league, look, I will accept the fact that you might, miss a timing route with the wide receiver in the early stages of the year or whatever the case may be. Cool, fine, happens. Great. A snap count? You're a 10-year veteran in the league. Like, that should never happen. Like, Peyton Manning came into the Broncos, he never missed a snap count. In fact, the worst snap count that he missed was the first play in the Super Bowl against the Seahawks.
Super Bowl.
When it was bloody loud that he actually called the snap and he smacked the back of his center to say, snap the dang ball, and then he kicked it over his head. Right? But that wasn't a Peyton Manning problem. That was a noise problem within the stadium. Manning was still on point at that stage. That was not a Manning issue. Whereas we saw Russ with multiple snafus, if you will, major issues last year that were, I've seen rookie quarterbacks do better than that in the NFL level. And that says a lot. Again, but you
have to also go back to his playing days in Seattle. It didn't happen in Seattle either. So it's a collaboration when it comes down to getting in and out of plays. Like, you got to call the play, and certain offenses they call 3 plays. Like, I give you the verbiage for 3 plays, and then you can check in and out of it based upon with your pre-snap in. If I don't get the play called and I'm at the line of scrimmage until 10 seconds, I got a limited window to make my adjustments and get check out of a play because they've got a cold and things of that nature. So it's a lot that goes into it. It's not just about blundering, the O-line blundering, and the quarterback blundering. It's the coaches, OC, the head coach, the team in general. It just getting out of package, getting people on the field, switching personnel. It's a lot. So you have to factor all that in, So again, you have to clean all that up and get that tight before you start to figure out exactly what we're going to be good at.
No, I think that like I said, I'm willing to be wrong on that front. I still maintain though, and I say this, and I even said this in our rankings, Coach. You remember I've been pretty consistent on this. I need to see it, and so until you can prove me otherwise, or show me that you can do something different, my gut is going to be, I'm looking at Herbert and saying he's a better quarterback. I'm looking at Mahomes and clearly saying he's a better quarterback. And I'm looking at Garoppolo right now and saying, I'm not so sure I wouldn't rather have Garoppolo over Wilson.
Wow, I ain't definitely saying that. I'm definitely not saying that.
No, but in short order, though.
I mean, they're pretty comparable. I'd say.
I would say, coach is getting some of that Kansas City smug that must have dripped down from the top to the bottom. The sprinkles about I'm gonna giggle my goony google ass off.
Into that?
No, I'm just saying I'm gonna giggle my goony google ass off if and when, I will say if and when, he beats your ass. Because he said, oh, well, I would never think about being beaten by Jimmy G string. I can't even think of that. I couldn't even harbor the thought.
I thought we were talking about comparing Jimmy G and Russ.
Right.
We are.
Right.
Because if you're saying that he sucks so bad, and the minute that
I said was he wasn't better than Russ. I didn't say. All I said, I don't think he's better than Russ. I didn't say he was the 32nd best quarterback in the league. I didn't say that. All I said was I would pick Russ over him. That would be my pick. I would say Russ is third and he's fourth in ranking.
So my thing here is,
I think you're worming, man. You're worming out of it.
I am. My point right now,
I would take Jimmy Garoppolo over, say, Nick Foles.
Big wow. Yeah, boy, that's a stretch. I'll take Jimmy Garoppolo over Gardner Minshew.
Oh, I give you one better. Baker Mayfield. I would take Jimmy Garoppolo over Baker Mayfield.
Well, even I would. Okay, that's easy.
I like easy as a quarterback. He's great.
I would take Jimmy G over Mayfield, Stafford, Geno Smith.
I would take him over Desmond Ridder.
Maybe over Daniel Jones.
That's my point.
Daniel Jones.
This is literally my point. Marcus, thank you for saying this. This was quite literally exactly what I was getting at. I am totally okay.
What are we basing that off of? Just one
year?
Okay. All right.
Look, until Russ can come back.
Jimmy only played like 4 games last year.
Fine, but he still played better than Russ did.
He beat Russ, actually.
He beat Russ.
Head there.
So my point is, Coach, I'm not saying that as a quarterback, Russ was over his career was worse than Jimmy G. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that as of today.
I like Cool Kev's comment.
Cool Kev, the soccer mom disagree.
Jimmy G over Rita Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
Yeah. Rita Wilson.
Owen Wilson. Luke Wilson.
Yeah. Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Charlie Wilson.
Howdy ho, neighborino. But in terms of that, my point is that Russell Wilson dropped so precipitously last year that
Wilson, even that Wilson. There you go.
So now, look, Russell Wilson did play better than a volleyball. So let's just.
That's a push.
Yeah,
that's a push.
That's a push.
No, come on now.
Wade Wilson.
You're talking about Deadpool?
Right. Which Wade Wilson we talking about here? Wade
Wilson. I think he has passed. The former Cowboys, Raiders, old quarterback. I think he passed like a year or so ago. So,
anyways, my point is about the Broncos and about all the things that gone on in camp. There are major hurdles that the Broncos need to get over, and they need to start showing out in order for me as a Broncos fan to feel okay in the fact that we have made the right changes and that we are progressing in the right direction. Now, there was a comment that was made here.
Thank you for getting it. I was going to say, Devil made me do it, baby. Devil made me do it. Devil made me do it. If you don't know who I'm doing, look up Flip Wilson.
I do know Flip Wilson.
I know who that is. But so this is me throwing over you, Cap. So my point ultimately is that I think that Jimmy G at this stage here, given how he played last year and how Russ played last year in their respective systems, I think Jimmy G showed that he's perhaps better at this stage in his career. But Russell Wilson with Sean Payton, I think, has the ability to rejuvenate his career with better coaching and a much sounder offensive philosophy behind him. Now, I did see a comment from our Raiders fans. Thank you all for joining us. Click those like buttons down below the video. It helps spread us around the YouTubes and everywhere else. But today, Captain, there was an interesting piece that came out that the Raiders made a comment on, that Jimmy G left because of a scheduled doctor's half day.
Yeah.
And it's a vet day.
So it's called it's a pitch count.
Right. So that's fine and good. So my question is this to Raiders, particularly.
We'll get there, Sarah. Don't you worry.
Oh yeah, we're getting there. So my question.
We won't let that fly.
This is my question to all of the Raiders fans here. Please ask your team for a schedule of Jimmy G's scheduled doctor's days.
That's HIPAA, dude.
Because I have a.
Thank you. See, the lawyer knows. The lawyer knows. Let me get my.
I gotta get 1 million authorizations.
Yeah.
Right. So I have a hard time believing if that today was actually a doctor's half day. My general feeling on it is that Jimmy is probably not as far along as the team was hoping, and that he wasn't feeling right, and they didn't want him to get hurt. And look.
So, Captain, okay, and again, I have no issue with that. Where's your proof? That's just an inkling, or that's a conspiracy. No, that's a conspiracy theory. Okay, because again, who
probably
are you
got that from Dove. Who are you going to
believe? Okay, from what I read, I said he ran off the field. Well, if he ran off the field, then that's great, because at least he's putting pressure on that plantar fasciitis leg now, isn't he? Now, if he's hobbling off the field, or let's put it this way, if he leaves the field like this, then we got a problem. Okay?
He just hurt his nose.
Yeah, if he leaves the field like, oh my God, that's an issue. Or let's just say if there is a pain in his urination, that's a problem. Okay, just saying. Not that I would know about such things, at least not within the last 30 years. But anyway, that's an issue. But if it's a pitch count, it's a pitch count. Yeah, D-Set knows about it.
Wow.
There you go.
My point is, so I would rather bank on the fact that he has had a storied history of injury and failed his physical, and the team was sketchy on disclosing that. So am I a conspiracy theorist? Sure, I will own that designation, given the fact that I was in the camp that I felt that Jimmy G failed his physical. The team was kind of quiet on that fact. And guess what? Then there was an amendment to his contract, like the Jimmy G string, trip and fall at the strip club piece, where, if you get hurt, we can move on from you. And then he signed his contract, and then they waived the physical designation, and now he's being slowly eased back.
Whoa. What are you smoking?
He had foot surgery too, didn't he?
What are you smoking? I mean, I know that some of those facts are somewhat out there, but either your order is messed up, or you got that you got a Canadian in your brain thinking there. Okay, the Raiders knew that he was injured when he came in. They had
what they thought he was.
They knew that he wasn't, pristine, right? Because the Niners said that they held him out, and they were actually waiting to win that last game in order for him to probably go to the Super Bowl. Well, that didn't work because Purdy got hurt, and that was a possibility. They knew that there was some issues there. He went in, he had the physical, and they're saying like, no, you're going to need further surgery. So they made the amendment on the contract based upon that it was probably worse than what they thought. So they gave themselves an out saying, if you don't pass, no ticky, no shirty. Although you can't even say that nowadays because of getting blasted for being anti-Asian. But, you know, that they made the amendment in the contract. At least, yeah, Alex gets it. Thank God. It finally dawns on Richie what I'm talking about. Anyway, so they made the amendment in the contract, and that was that. Okay, it wasn't the best thing, but it was the smart thing to do. So he came in, he rested. He went into the contract or the camp, passed his physical, and he's been looking good for the most part. You know, his first day or so, he's a little not out there on the long pass, but he's never been a long passer. He's been very crisp, according to the camp notes. He's been very crisp in the short to intermediate routes, whereas the Niners and even the Patriots guys, when he was over in New England, he is more of a give the folks their yak, not the long ball that Carr throws, which will be good for the Raiders receivers because he will give it right to them and then they will move out. Renfro's been looking good. So has Adams. So is Tucker. Yeah, I want to make sure because Trey Turner's the shortstop. It's Trey. Yeah, Trey Tucker. You know, Turner's my shortstop. Tucker's my wide receiver. And he's been looking like a weapon, not just a gadget guy. So he's been looking good. Now, he came back after the one pick that Peters had. The next play, he gets Adams on a good dig, and he gets a long bomb, and he gets the touchdown. The reports that I'm getting not from Raiders guys, but the beat reporters, is that he has looked very well. Okay. So if you're saying that there's some, he walked off and people ask, oh my God, what happened to Jimmy G? He's on a pitch count because yes, why rush somebody back when there is the liability and the issues that he's had in the past? You ease him in to get him going. He missed all of OTAs. So that this is just, we're talking about practice, not a game, practice. Okay. And that's what I get from that. I'm sorry I had to cut you off, but I'm like, come on, man. And everybody is on the shnikes. I caught myself the shnikes bandwagon until it happens. So for folks that are on that bandwagon or waiting for it to happen, okay, we haven't played a game yet. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's all I'm going to say. And Marcus, who is a Niners fan, saying, Jimmy G will be fine. He's a winner. Talking to a Niners fan, I'm going to miss him. There you go. And
he's been to a Super Bowl. So.
I think you're misconstruing my point. I actually like Jimmy G as a quarterback. I think he's a good to great quarterback, and I've always said that.
Yeah, but you're talking about pitch count.
With all due respect.
Oh, he's not respecting me. Go ahead. Did we go?
I see what you did there.
Did we go over it? What's that like last week?
That was last week. That was last week. Yeah, it was definitely last week.
Yeah, because I said that, right?
Yeah.
And who did I blast? Who did I blasted somebody? Ooh, put your finger. You okay? I was like, with all due respect, Alex.
Yeah.
Thank you. There you go. Go ahead. I knew I was. Oh, that's it.
I think Jimmy G is a good quarterback for McDaniel's system. I just, everyone's saying that he just can't stay healthy. But I mean, when he's out there, he's effective. He's not going to win you a game with his arm, but he's not going to lose you a game. He's going to make the right choice and move the ball, and that's kind of what they need. So, I don't knock Jimmy G other than he can't stay healthy, but that's not necessarily in his control. So
yeah, and I would lean on the side of he is a quarterback in a system, and I think he's a system quarterback. I think that he can't go anywhere and flourish and be successful. I think the systems he's been in, the Niners and the Patriots to give those to give that background were really good systems, and a lot of quarterbacks with decent to higher level talent can be really highly productive in those systems. Now, again, the question is, his health is a problem, and typically when you're off injured, early in your career, it doesn't typically get better, and that's the sense. And the Raiders O-line, the instability of that O-line gives me pause as well. I think that you need to have a fortress around this dude to keep him upright and keep the ball moving. But if you don't, on top of the fact that Josh Jacobs' status is in limbo, there's a lot of questions there.
I got news on that. I got news on that when I'm allowed to continue.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna wrap up, and please tell me, because I was gonna ask you about that as well. Exactly where we're at in that regard. But yeah, I think that's the issue. I think him being a system guy, and again, he's not going to be a upper echelon quarterback. He's going to win your game by himself, but he's not going to lose it for you either. That I think that's how you can look at it from Jimmy G's perspective, and what type of quarterback he really truly is. So I think that's the thing. He's not going to put the team on his back and say, "Hey, ride with me. We're going to get this over the hump."
Let's ride.
He's not Mr. Unlimited, but he's going to get you. He's not going to make a lot of mistakes to cost you games either.
Yeah. Okay. And as far like other camp news, by the way, Raiders got rid of O.J. Howard. I think it was a mutual thing that Howard was. Man.
Howard was from. He's a freak athlete. I'm surprised.
Yeah, but he's never lived up to his potential. Okay,
yeah.
and a nice guy. I got his autograph when the Bucks were over at the CENTCOM signing stuff. But great guy. But he was stuck on the depth chart, and Jesper Horsted passed him up. So when you get passed up by Jesper Horsted, who's getting bulkier and younger, and doesn't have the injury issues that Howard has, I think it was a mutual thing.
You say younger?
Yeah. Than Howard, because Howard's been in the league, bouncing around the league. Yeah. Horsted was younger than Howard. He's gotten better and getting more reps. He's a better blocker, and he was showing his thing. I think it was a mutual where Howard probably said, "Hey, do me a solid and cut me so I can catch on with somebody else." And I think they did that. And then they went out and got Hollister, who's an ex-Jags tight end, so they still got an H in the. Remember, it was like the
Patriots guy.
Yeah. Oh, Hollister's the Pats guy too. Okay. Well, there you go. There's the connection. So Hollister then he knows the system. So there you go. The other thing is that the Raiders had been almost escaping without a lot of injuries, but Faison got carted off the field the other day. He was not on the field today, so they were saying that it's not seriously debilitating, but they were, they expect him to come back, which is good because you don't want another one of your corners who actually has some playing time in the league than a lot of these younger guys that do not, or not as much. The offensive line is still not in shambles, but has been playing well. That's why I said that even Jimmy G was doing all that. Thanks, Carlos. Hit the like button for everybody. Hit the like button for everybody. Thank you there, Carlos. And the other thing that is the major thing about, Jacobs is not in there. Well, White has been playing well. Sincere McCormick has been playing well. And actually, Amir Abdullah has been playing well. Walter's injured. I haven't heard anything about Britton Brown, so I don't know what's going on with him. But the big news is there's my drum roll and the crash. Is I have it from a good source who got it from his good source that Josh Jacobs was in town today in Vegas. Okay. And he was at Raiders headquarters. He was in town today. This is Wednesday. Expected to be in town till Friday at Raiders headquarters. And according to a source, now maybe this happens, maybe it doesn't. But according to the source, things should be wrapped up by Friday so that he signed and get into camp. That's the big news.
Are you expecting a Saquon Barkley style?
We will see.
That's been
I have no word as to what. Right, and to be honest, it would make sense because if you say we're going to give you but the thing is that Jacobs was looking for more guaranteed money and a longer term deal. So if it's a somewhat of a Saquon deal, I would expect it to be 2 years guaranteed at a good price because he's been wanting both a longer term than 1 year, and it was what the guaranteed money is. So I think it's a multi-year deal if that is what he was looking at, or the guaranteed money is up where he wants it.
It can only
sign a 1 year deal now.
Huh?
Yeah.
Because
okay. Well, if that's true, then because then it'll be a 1 year deal at a higher guarantee year. But then you can franchise them afterwards, or you can actually work out a deal so that at the end of the season or whenever you're able to, if that's what you want to do, get some add-ons to it.
The Patriot way would be to wait and see where he is health-wise by the end of this season, and probably sign him to a fatter guarantee this year, and that's it. And well, obviously they can only do the 1 year, and this is it. So go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
And Georgia also said this, with Zamir White playing as well as he is, with Sincere McCormick playing as well as he is, and I said that if the guys are playing up to their abilities, it's going to bring Josh into camp a lot quicker.
It'll help, but I'm sorry, as a Broncos fan, and I'm sure the other guys here in the division agree, we are not shaking in our boots with regards to your other running backs. Josh Jacobs, however, he's a needle mover.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. People playing around with Saquon Barkley's and Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor type talent, you're going to miss those guys.
Yeah.
You're going to miss those guys. There's a game-changing backs. We're not talking about any run-of-the-mill middle draft pick guys. We're talking about home run hitters.
I get it, but I've also seen Zeus White at Georgia. I've seen with Zeus White. I get it, but what did we see from Jacobs? You talk about college, not the pros, not the pros.
Jacobs had 3 years of good.
But I had, based upon what
Jacobs was behind every other running back in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. At the end of the day, sorry, go ahead. At the end of the day, what we're talking about is the league's leading rusher from last year. You are not talking about some ham sandwich, coming out of college. And if you're going to point back to college and say who did well, who didn't, whatever. I mean, Todd Gurley did amazing in college. He had like 2 good years in the NFL and then sucked the rest of the time.
Well, he just got too hurt.
Yeah, that's what it
is. He was also
his knees were blown out before he even got to the NFL.
But that's my point, right? Is that he was hurt before he even got there. So you have Josh Jacobs, who has got 3-4 years of absolutely rock solid tape at the NFL level. He has been not just good, but exceptional as the years have gone on at the NFL level. And arguably, he's actually gotten better as time has gone on.
Ain't no argument. He has.
Which is rare for running backs. Normally, they peak and then they start declining. Jacobs
has 2 different scheme changes too.
Right.
That's a fact.
So, I mean, I'm sorry. At some point, you got to just kind of give the dude credit. He's just that darn good.
Like I said, you keep playing. If you want to be anything in the realm of a competitive, you need to shine Josh. That's a showstopper for me. It's just like Austin Eckler for us, just like Chris Jones for the Chiefs. It's just like say Jerry Jeudy or Russell Wilson for the Broncos. Those guys are needle movers. And if you don't have your needle mover in your offense or on your defense in any particular facet of the season, you're going to struggle.
Yeah. How much do you think is he coming back because of Saquon though? and like the situation with Taylor, because it's like Saquon didn't hold strong, right, and ultimately got a little bit more money, like not much, but a little bit. Whereas Taylor's the opposite end, fighting nail and tooth here to get some kind of movement, and it's like he might get put on the PUP list and not get his money because of a back injury. So it's like, do you think that
fabrication?
Yeah. But do you think how like both ends have played out? He's kind of like, just easier to go back and like not try to forge a new path here for running backs.
Who, Taylor or Jacobs?
Jacobs.
Oh, well,
like if he is going back,
Well,
like,
yeah, it's a different dynamic being on a franchise tag versus being on a contract. Because Taylor's still under his last year of his deal. That's different than it being a franchise tag that you don't
Taylor's
have to sign.
Doing it early. Taylor's doing it because he knows next year they'll probably franchise tag him, right? Mm-hmm. So he's kind of taking
he sees the writing on the wall. No question about that. He sees the writing on the wall. Yeah, but the reason why he's holding out is because of that fact, and the fact that he literally met with Jim Irsay on a one-on-one, and he didn't like anything Jim had to say, and he requested a trade right then and there. Yeah, so that's a whole different ball game. But when it comes to Jacobs, like again, he's limited in what he can do this year, but again, he has to move the needle. Not to keep using that phrase, but need to move the needle because he get a little more incentive than Saquon got, and also get a no franchise tag next year clause. Like you put that in your contract to say they can't franchise tag me again. So either when we come back to the table again, it's either a long-term deal or I walk. So again, you just start adding on things again to the contract that allow the next man to get that baseline and then some. So I think that if you do that, I think he'll come back into the fold, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but I think that overall it's just you just have to hedge your bet. And I'm actually going to talk about this tomorrow on my 30-minute lockdown show about what some solutions can be in regards to what the running backs can do to help themselves get paid. Because I think nothing else should be a tiering system. I mean, you shouldn't be questioning whether or not you should pay Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, Javonte Williams, those guys, Saquon Barkley. You shouldn't be questioning that. Those guys are again, they're needle movers. They're game changers. So you had some trepidation about paying Miles Sanders, maybe. Reason why he left for the Eagles, right? Because he's not that same prototypical back there like Saquon is.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not. Yeah, he's not Josh. He's not. I mean, all three guys you mentioned have led the league. Maybe not Saquon, but have led the league in rushing.
Right. Or they've just been the best player on their team in certain facets. Like, let's be honest. Maybe what year have you can say that Saquon was when he was healthy? He wasn't the best player on his team. Yeah, you can't. None of them. He's none of them, exactly. So again, he's the best player on the team. So you pay your best player. You don't let him walk out the door.
But then it's just it's just because all these other positions, every time someone gets paid, whether they're worthy of it or not, they're resetting the market. And so it's like, I feel like with offensive line and like running backs, those are like the two where teams you see the most of like devaluing positions, and more lowballing people. Because like Christian Kirk, right? Like, it kind of panned out this year for Christian Kirk. But when he got that contract, everyone was like, what the hell is this? Because he basically reset the receiver market and was the third wide receiver in Arizona for 2 years.
Right.
And so it's like you see those positions, like guys like that getting paid, but then you got the leading rusher from last year who's having to hold out in the hopes of getting 12.5 rather than 12.
And not even resetting the market at that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Not even resetting the market at that.
It's just a carousel of things that goes on in the league, right? And back, 10 years ago, you were paying running backs first, things of that nature. Now the league, the premium and the sexy positions are this: quarterback, left tackle, edge rusher, wide receiver, and cornerback. Those are the ones that get paid. Those are the ones that get paid because based upon how the offenses are running, you gotta have solid rock stars at those positions, and when you get them, you don't let them walk. So you have to look at it from that perspective. But again, you shouldn't pay 3 and 4 receivers more so than your top 5 running back. Then that's where we get off the rails there. I think that's the problem. I think that instead of paying that second or third receiver $6, $7, $8 million a year, you bundle that up and pay your running back when he's a caliber of a Jonathan Taylor or Saquon Barkley. You know, and his production has given you clear-cut examples of him being, you know, a guy that can help your football team immensely. So you have to.
I feel like you can replenish receivers way easier.
Absolutely.
Finding, you know, just with so many colleges.
There's way more receivers drafted. You got wide receivers drafted deep into the 7th round versus running backs. Your premium running backs stopping at 4 to 5. It's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different ballgame. So
100%. The other thing you're also getting now more than ever is wide receivers coming into the league that are far more polished route runners than they ever have been, because college is turning into a basically throw it around the backyard kind of league, and getting your upper echelon caliber running backs, a la Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, just absolutely game changers. There is, you know, a small fraction even of the upper echelon that come out of college that are the true needle movers at the NFL level. And there's like 3, maybe 4 of them in the league right now, and that's it.
And I'm gonna tell you when it's really gonna come home to roost. This is really gonna be a home run hitting point here. Is that y'all also realize that the top echelon teams are cold weather teams, right? Mm-hmm. We're gonna get into November and December, and if those guys aren't available in any facet, your Jonathan Taylors, your Josh Jacobs, and things of that nature, you don't have your Nick Chubb. You don't have that guy that can run the ball in bad weather. You're gonna lose games. You're going to lose games. And then when you got to travel to Buffalo in the playoffs, got to travel to Kansas City in the playoffs, Cincinnati, Philly, you know, most of these teams are good teams. There are cold weather teams. These upper northern teams are cold teams. The weather is going to be nasty come. Baltimore. We got lucky in the playoffs. Yeah, we got lucky in the playoffs last year. The only really bad game was the Buffalo game, and it was snowing. But everybody else had it was cold, but it wasn't, you know, bad weather, rain or snow. It doesn't typically happen, you know, in these places in wintertime. No. So you can bank on it being bad weather, and if you don't have a good running game to support your offense, it's gonna come on the roost.
I couldn't get my passport in time. I wanted to go to Buffalo for that.
See,
because I would have been there in shorts and a t-shirt.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. I bet money on that one. I could pay that Rodriguez book and bet money on that one.
Wasn't Fitzpatrick
over and under on that one?
Yeah, he was. Fitzpatrick was out there shirtless. You're right. He was. With chest hair and everything. Chest hair and everything.
I win that contest.
Real question, though, Richie.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Are we super flexing this Week 5 Denver Jets game to Sunday Night Football or what?
Not over the Cowboys 49ers game. I don't think they're doing that.
I don't know.
So I truly think it depends on where this goes. So you want my honest opinion? It's, does this continue? And so, by all accounts, Sean Payton has taken the initial step to walk it back, which I think
he didn't walk that shit back. He freaking grabbed it, turned around, and sprinted the other way.
Well, actually,
walking it back would entail like friggin' Michael Jackson doing a with a moonwalk. No. Peyton grabbed the baton, did a 180, and did the Usain Bolt, boom, back that way.
I encourage you to actually re-listen to that press conference. Pay attention to the words. Pay attention to the words.
I'm with you. He only said enough.
Hold on. Captain, respect, you are wrong.
Respectfully.
With all due respect.
With all due respect.
Your opinion does not matter.
With all due respect, Captain, you are wrong.
I did it for dramatic effect. I did. I was being a little much, but my point was, and this was actually where I was intended, is that somebody came up to him and said, "Dude, you up."
That was probably all good.
That was the Walmart guys. The Walmart guys got involved. They're like, "Look here, you gotta walk that back a little bit." You know, just a slight backpedal.
You're smoking weed on Twitter.
I need you to clean it up a little bit, just a little bit. Go on, Rich. Roll it back a little bit. Roll it back a little bit, just a little bit.
The rollback. So I get it. I see what you did there. I see what you did there with the rollback. Yeah, see.
Yeah,
I got it. Yeah.
And
we are the Walmart Broncos.
And I think that's the only reason why he rolled it back a little bit, because I think he meant that stuff. I think he meant that.
I think Penner came up to him and said, "You got to roll that back. And you got to do it now."
Yeah.
And he said, "But I meant it. I refuse to." He goes, "You at least have to make it look like you're rolling it back."
Right.
And Coach, as you and I basically both were quite clear on, if you truly listen to the words, he says a bunch of things, but the way that it's framed, it was basically like, I have been told to come up and say the thing, but I don't mean the thing I just said.
Right. Only thing he left out was sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
sorry, not sorry.
And of course, as Raider Zach has pointed out, and others have earlier in the comments. And by the way, appreciate you all joining us tonight. Thank you all for coming right to the end of the show here. But we're not done yet because we got a little bit to cover on this topic. You're absolutely correct. Aaron Rodgers, out of everybody, was the most correct. It was the best. It was like the perfect presser. Keep a coach's name out of your mouth.
It's like WWE, dude. I think
it really was. Yeah. Cut the promos.
You could be out there like, Peyton,
get my coach's name out your mouth.
Out your mouth.
In my face.
It was great. It was great. And I actually thought Aaron Rodgers did the right thing for, by his OC and by all accounts, someone he considers a friend. I think that was the right move. I am quite curious, though, as to if Hackett and Rodgers are so tight, why would he not have then subsequently come to Denver following Hackett as the head coach to elevate his friend? To me, that doesn't make any sense, because you'd think.
Well, that wasn't his choice. He was on a contract. He didn't have a choice in that. They had to trade him.
I have a hard time believing Green Bay would not have accepted the offer that the Broncos had on the table for Russell Wilson, because basically the Broncos gave more than what the Packers got for Rodgers. So
but he's younger quarterback too, though. Younger.
Sure. Sure. No, Wilson's younger, but at the same time, I have a hard time believing the Broncos wouldn't have put something similar on the table for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers. Like Aaron Rodgers he would never know. John Elway. He's basically John Elway with a better back.
But you also got to realize at the time when this was going on, Rodgers was flirting with retirement for like the last 2 years. So why would I invest that level of capital in a guy that may not be here in a year?
I agree.
It's hard. It's a hard sell. It's a hard sell.
I agree, but I mean, Colorado has such a tremendous amount of drugs that you think to keep going his little journey.
Yeah, I got psychedelics. Yeah, you like psychedelics. You don't like the good. You don't like the wacky stuff. He like the psychedelics.
Yeah.
But you know what? He had also dumped Shailene Woodley at that time and said, "Why am I going over there to Colorado and I'm not even with that skanky bitch anymore?" That's probably another thing they got into. It.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's right.
That's and that was her. That like she actually has a permanent residence in Colorado.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. So that's probably in fairness, probably something.
Probably a component of it. Yeah.
Yeah, probably played into it. But either way.
So that would make me not press the issue.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like,
I think I'm good. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
I'm good. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I actually think when you listen to Peyton's original comments, I think he aired a little bit too much from what were likely private conversations that took place throughout the process. I think it was rather clear that the upper management within the Broncos were quite literally embarrassed with the product that was on the field last year, as they should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, as they should have been, right? Like, let's be honest. Like you look like trash. And
it was a straight dumpster fire.
Yeah, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal.
Actually would have had to improve to be a straight dumpster fire.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And my actually biggest concern right now is I don't believe we have done enough. And I think that is part of the reason why Peyton has come at the team from both sides. He made the comment about Hackett and how everything was not good. And then I think he's made some other comments about the fact that certain things haven't gone the way that he expected in practice and other things.
Yeah.
And I actually think that part of that is because he has made comments. he's made comments, I think, throughout the process to upper management that he expects and needs things to be done a certain way if they want to win. And I don't believe they have gone all the way. I believe they have gone part of the way and said, come on, like, we can go to the bargain bin and do things, right? And then he's like, no.
Well, you got to think maybe part of it, because can't they theoretically get out from Russ's contract after this year?
No.
With $70 million or something.
That's
like
not
that.
getting out. That's not getting out.
No, they're locked in like
that's
five.
A tax write-off. You put that. You just.
They're locked in like 5 years, though, right? I think it's like 5 years.
But I think it may be. I mean, obviously they had. You would think if they thought the process out more than last year, they obviously had a conversation with Peyton about, we got Russ, we got him all this money. How long do you need to fix him? Or because I'm sure Peyton was like.
And do you want his answer was?
He had to have come in and been like, I'm not inheriting this team and you give me 2 years to turn it around. Like, I need 5, or whatever.
No. Do you know what his answer was?
None.
He might not be fixable.
Yeah. I don't think
any normal and sane individual will give you that answer, because he can't tell you for sure if Russ was or was not the problem, because both sides recognize that the coaching issue was obviously an issue and needs to be fixed. There is no disputing that Sean Payton is not going to be the problem. And that's exactly why ownership brought in Sean.
Doesn't mean there won't be a problem.
Right, doesn't mean there won't be a problem. But it's almost for sure that it's not a Sean Payton problem, right?
Yeah.
Because Sean Payton took a Drew Brees-less New Orleans Saints to consecutive winning records.
Well, how long did it take the Saints to get relevant when he was there?
1 year.
Oh.
Same year. He took a 3-13 team to a winning record and flipped it 1 year.
Did he start the year that Katrina happened? Wasn't that the same year?
Yeah, and I think they went. It was either that year or the year after they made the Super Bowl and won.
It was a little later than that, I think.
Was it?
A couple years.
It's either a year or two. It was not more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't long after Katrina.
They beat Manning.
Yeah. So
onside kick. Tracy Porter.
Yep. But the point is that no one is going to be looking at Sean Payton and say, I'm not sure if you can do it.
Yeah,
no, I was just asking. Say, you're good. Now, what's wrong with the team? And I think that's going to be a fair comment. And frankly, Sean Payton has earned that respect across the league, given what he's done. And he's done so with Teddy Bridgewater, Taysom Hill, who's the other quarterback? Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston, yeah.
Gotta eat a W.
Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't do anything with Jameis Winston, though.
No, he had a winning record.
Not with Jameis Winston.
He did.
Jameis didn't play a full year.
But he had a winning record. And the point is that he did well. He basically put out a successful offense based on his principles and adjusted his offense to fit the quarterback that he had on the roster. And he showed that he's willing to adapt on a dime.
What I was trying to get at, though, is so that example, right? That was year 10 plus of his roster that he built.
Yep.
And what I was trying to get at with you saying you felt like they didn't do enough is, do you think that there's this, they've got to be somewhat considering a way to get away out from Russ if this year is similar to last year's, right? So maybe that's the reason they're not doing much, because they're kind of just seeing how this simmers, how this boils up, and if it doesn't, they're out.
You have to be willing to basically eat a tremendous amount of cap dollars.
Yeah. 2025 is the earliest they can get out without major penalty.
Yeah, and so basically what they're going to do is they're basically going to turn to Russ if he does not do well this season, and they're saying, here's the deal. We are going to publicly bench you. and I mean very publicly bench you, you make a choice. You allow yourself to get traded, or you will be absolutely publicly humiliated. Your choice. You tell.
But would someone trade for him though?
Look, at that point there, the Broncos just want out of his contract and they want him to waive and void it.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think, but why would he though? That's why it's got to be a situation where they have to be willing to just cut ties and move on.
One word: legacy. Russ right now is. So here's a question for everybody in the chat. All of you who are still here with us, this is a great one. Again, this really kind of goes to a broader look at football, and we're all football fans. Clearly, those of us who are here. For Russell Wilson at this stage here, would it not be a fair comment to say that his legacy took a tremendous hit last season with the Denver Broncos?
Are you kidding me? That's easy. Yeah.
Like, would that not be a fair comment? Like, because my answer is yeah.
Absolutely.
Like for sure.
I think the answer is duh.
Right. And then on top of that, because we brought in arguably one of the best coaches remaining in the NFL in Sean Payton, if Russ does not come back this season and double at least the win total, I think his long-term prospects at a gold jacket are almost permanently hindered.
Yeah.
Well, I think the answer to your question will be answered at the end of the season. If he comes back to the level of play that he was in Seattle or any semblance of it, then you can say it was the coach, because it's still up in the air whether or not, it's the whole Brady versus Belichick argument. Like, you have to wait and see who does better and who does worse, who won a divorce, right? If Russ is better this year with Peyton and he was terrible with Hackett, they were going to blame Hackett for that. So I think the answer to that question comes at the end of the season when he is either better or worse or the same. Then that'll tell you exactly whether or not he's cooked or he just had a terrible coach that was completely over his skis. I think that's really what it boiled down to, because there was a lot of dysfunction with that particular organization. It just wasn't Russ's quarterback play. Like, it was a lot of dysfunction. And that's what Sean Payton alluded to. That's what the whole conversation is about, is that he was such in disarray with how much dysfunction was going on under Hackett's leadership that, he had to clean all this up and do all this, sweeping and dusting and polishing before he can really implement what he wanted to implement, that kind of thing. So I think that it will really honestly truly be answered once we get through this season to see how well he plays. And then I'll tell you for sure whether or not he's regressed and or is he going to get back to prominence?
No, and that's a fair piece, but at some point, a 10-year veteran quarterback. So here let me put this a different way. When Peyton Manning came to Denver, not only was there not a drop off in Denver's play, but Denver's play was elevated. No one was arguing whether or not Peyton Manning was washed after midway through that first season, right?
I mean, let's be honest. Peyton wasn't the same he was in Indy either because of the neck injury.
Yeah,
either.
I mean, it wasn't.
Y'all had a legendary defense. So
one of the best football minds ever.
Yeah, y'all had a legendary defense on the fact that, again, Peyton Manning as a mind.
And prime Von Miller.
And the Hall of Fame DeMarcus Ware. So, I mean, that's not a fair comparison. They're two different players. They're two different players, in my opinion. And then Peyton Manning in his prime was literally what they put him in the annals of like top 3 of all time. Russ isn't in that category, but he's not top liver either.
Come up the same time as Brady.
True.
Okay, so
that's the argument. That's an argument.
So here's the flip side. So Russell Wilson would probably be somewhere in the same general kind of discussion as like a Brett Favre.
Yeah, both won Super Bowl.
I think the only similarities is with the Peyton Manning move is the fact that he was a veteran and he won a Super Bowl. I mean, it stops there.
And that's where it stops, exactly. And that's where it stops.
Right.
There's no other, there's two different style of quarterbacks. It really truly is two different style of quarterbacks.
But I'm basically looking at this from a general perspective of saying you have a veteran quarterback who ought to know better and ought to know how to play the game properly. when Brett Favre moved to the Vikings and to the Jets, he still had moments where you're like, oh, dude, he's still the same guy. He can read the field. He can do the things. He can do the stuff and so on and so forth. When Russ came to Denver, he looked like trash. No, like, and actually, that might be an insult to trash, right? Like I'm sorry, he looked so bad, and I pointed out on film as I was analyzing the All-22 and even going through just basic, like NFL broadcast film, where I would pause the screen and say, "Here's route 1, here's route 2, and here's route 3," and all 3 crossers were wide open, and he still screwed it up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that is awful. And like, I mean, like Gardner Minshew, Nick Foles, either one of those other tier 5, 6, and 7 quarterbacks make most of those throws, and Russell Wilson messed it up. Basically, my comment was someone needs to give Russell Wilson a phone book or 3 to stand on, and maybe then he'll be able to see the field because he's so bloody short.
I don't know. I give a man some grace if in 11 seasons you made 9 Pro Bowls, an All-Pro, a Super Bowl win. I mean, I can read his accolades all day long. Passing leader in 2015, passing touchdown leader in 2017. That particular person, that particular person does not completely and utterly fall off the wagon off of 1 year with a brand new system, brand new coach, brand new personnel, brand new city.
I don't know, but then it begs the question: how much of it was Seattle? How much of it was his situation there and like helping his success? Because I mean, dude, football is such a team-oriented sport that it's so hard to just say one guy can go anywhere and be the same person. You know? And so it's just I always think it's hard to like look at someone like I guess Tom Brady obviously did it to some degree. You know, he went to Tampa and won a Super Bowl, but I wouldn't say that was all because of Tom Brady. But
that's an outlier. That's not the norm.
But but I mean, outside of that, it's like you see players like Le'Veon Bell, prime example. You see killed it in Pittsburgh. With their scheme, and then goes to the Jets. Was just it looked like a shell, and that was just in 1 year. I mean, he sat out a year, I guess, too. But
right? So
yeah, but I mean, I don't know, it's just such a hard you see stuff like that, and then see how the player looks in a different situation, and to me, it makes me question, well, how much of the success was due to having a great defense in Seattle every year and having Marshawn Lynch and being able to use the running game and play action off of that more than going to Denver and not having Marshawn Lynch, not having the Legion of Boom,
or not having Marshawn Lynch for one play.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, should be a 2-time Super Bowl champion. They hand the damn ball off, but that's a whole other conversation.
I agree.
Whole other conversation. But yeah, I think that it remains to be seen. I think that we should give Russ some grace in this regard. And they did right by getting him a better coach. I think they did right. So again, there's no excuses left. I mean, you got the coach, you've got the air quote franchise quarterback, you got the receivers. There's still some things that need to be changed and turned over from a roster perspective. But you're in much better hands this year going into the season than you were last year.
They got someone that can manage all of it. I think it was over for Hackett. Yeah. Hackett would have only worked if they got Rodgers, because that those two had a good enough relationship already.
Right.
Rodgers took it personal. It's like you were attacking his little brother, with Peyton's comments. I mean, obviously I think that would have worked out a whole lot better than how it went. But they got Hackett first, hoping that would be the final touch to have Rodgers okay it. I think.
Yeah, I still believe that. I still believe it.
Yep,
but
I agree.
What I was trying to get at though, with the getting rid of Russ and stuff, I kind of think Peyton made those comments thinking the season might end up being a dud, and I want to at least have the record early on of me saying
my arse.
This team was trying. Look, I told you they were bad. I've been trying for 17 weeks now. He turned it, so because what was some kid? I think he's on the. He might not be on the Jets now, but there's some former Broncos player quoted it. I think his story quoted it, and he was like, "Well, looks like someone's tried to like realized what he inherited and is trying to walk back on his high praise, you know. So it's like makes you wonder.
Well, most of the Broncos are now, like most of the guys that they got rid of are actually now with the Seahawks, believe it or not, because they traded some of their top players to the Seahawks as part of the Russ trade. And so then the guy that they let go of this offseason signed with the Seahawks.
Yeah,
signed with the Seahawks in
Draymond
Jones.
Yep. Yeah, Draymond Jones. Yep.
And so there's a the Seattle Broncos over there are
Seattle Broncos.
The Seattle Broncos bringing it back to the old school AFC West, where the Seahawks were in the division. They certainly have a tremendous number of Broncos castaways, and when you look at who won that trade, it is not close. It is not close, and that's why you guys have all heard me say multiple times on this podcast, if the Broncos want to be competitive, and this, I mean, I'm literally saying this as a Broncos fan, we need to do what Miami did. We need to say we basically screwed the pooch on the Russ trade, but we can't get out of it until 2025. The best thing we can do for our team today is to look at some of our top assets, trade them away for high draft picks, start stacking those 1s and 2s, which is exactly what Miami did.
They hit on all them picks the Seattle did.
And they went,
yeah,
right?
They hit on all them picks.
Yeah.
But look at what Seattle did with the Denver picks, and look what Miami did when they tore down the roster and rebuilt it. Yeah. That is the model. And I have been pounding on that table for so long. Like, it's not that I just don't think that Justin Simmons is a great player. I think he's a great role model for children. I think he does a phenomenal job within the community, and I think he's an above-average safety. However, he's not a needle mover given the Broncos' current roster because we need too much. You need to get rid of him in order to get those extra draft picks to do what all of those things did. You need that stuff. You need those draft picks. You need the 1s, you need the 2s, and you need to rebuild your roster. You need that wall of the offensive line that, Coach, your team has now started to stockpile in order to do it. You need to look at what KC did in terms of building that offensive line in front of Patrick Mahomes. The moment you signed the contract, you went and got 3 ridiculously good offensive linemen, and now you have a Super Bowl and another appearance to show for it. So, I mean, yes, please. Right? Anyways, guys, I really think we've had a tremendous show today, a lot of content. There was so much to cover for the show today.
Spicy week.
We even started curbing certain topics just because there was so much to cover within each of them. If you have any questions for either of us, go ahead and reach out to us on Twitter. You see all of our Twitter handles here, or X here.
My X handle.
Channels and everything are down below. Go ahead and reach out. And if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and leave those as well. And until next time, guys, where the West Side is, in fact, the best side. Peace!
Feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.